approaching Dathomir, Grand Admiral.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Ahsoka Episode 8 finale video. There were a whole bunch of cliffhangers, but a whole bunch of Easter eggs, so we'll break it all down. They paid off a bunch of theories during the Season 2, especially what was going on with the Mortis gods. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. I will do videos for Ahsoka Season 2 and explain what's happening next. I've got a couple videos planned after this too. We're also doing the giveaway for the Mandalorian Blu-rays. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and post all your theories for Ahsoka Season 2 and the Mandalorian Season 4. Careful for spoilers from the episode. If you haven't seen it yet, we'll just start at the beginning, work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs, WTF moments, and how this is all basically leading up, setting up the Thrawn movie, Heir to the Empire. We actually just had the 15-year anniversary of the premiere of The Clone Wars as they were airing this Ahsoka finale, so very timely. It's also the 9-year anniversary of the premiere of Star Wars Rebels, and the show is kind of like Star Wars Rebels Season 5. The actual episode title was called The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord, which is a reference to Ahsoka, Morgan Elsbeth, now a full Night Sister, and Thrawn. That trinity is also a reference to the end of the episode with the Mortis gods. The lion is the father, the witch is the daughter, and the warlord is the son. The title also kind of reminded me of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Like Ahsoka is Aslan, the witch is Morgan Elsbeth, and the wardrobe is like the transport device to the other realm. In this case, it would be the hyperspace ring. The actual opening music is interesting because it started kind of like an Imperial March, but like a very ominous version of the Imperial March, because it's Thrawn taking his Night Sister zombie army back to the main galaxy. It's just that they haven't raised all of the Night Sister zombies yet. There was a shot at the end of the episode where they pan over the cargo hold and show you some of what they have, but it's kind of like a Game of Thrones situation with the White Walkers. The whole idea is that every time they fight a battle and they kill a bunch of people, it can increase the size of their army exponentially across time. So Thrawn starts fighting battles against the New Republic, they kill a bunch of the New Republic soldiers, they can also raise those back from the dead, and they can continue to raise their Night Sister zombie troopers too, who basically seem unfazed by anything but getting their heads chopped off. It's almost exactly the same way the Night King's army worked on Game of Thrones. So if he's starting out with an army that's this big, imagine how big it's going to get by the beginning of the Thrawn movie. The actual opening scene is of Thrawn's Chimera Star Destroyers. They finished loading all those dead bodies that they plan to resurrect. Their troopers are called Night Troopers too, even the ones that are still alive. Like some of them are still alive, but some of them have already been dead and raised back up. That's also part of what the red bands tied around all their armor is. It's not just there for decoration. Those are Night Sister spells that help raise them from the dead. Thrawn plans to distract Ahsoka long enough to prevent them from being a problem during their final departure procedures, successfully, as it turns out, as they attach the Star Destroyer to the hyperspace ring. Basically, it works exactly like you saw during the events of the prequels. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi had a version of this hyperspace ring. It was just way smaller because his ship was smaller. The other thing about hyperspace, too, is that you can't just use a normal hyperspace engine to jump across galaxies. Like, there are only certain distances that regular hyperspace engines are good for. That's why Morgan Elsbeth had special hyperspace engines that were way, way larger than you would see even on a Star Destroyer by themselves, and 5 of them to boot. It'd be like strapping 3 car engines and like 4 extra tanks of gas to a car. The funny thing, too, during this opening scene when Thrawn is preparing to distract Ahsoka is he tells Morgan Elsbeth not to get ahead of herself. Other people made assumptions about the rebellion being taken care of way too soon, and he fell victim to the heroics of a single Jedi. That's a direct reference to Ezra Bridger in the finale from Star Wars Rebels.
Even I fell victim to the heroics of a single Jedi. Never again.
Admiral, we have incoming.
Take a look.
He basically surprised him with a giant pod of Purgles when at the time he had 3 Star Destroyers, including his Chimera, over Lothal, and it looked like he would crush them. That's why he had that very funny line, "Never again." It was kind of like the Rebels were 10 points behind with the final buzzer about to go off, and Ezra Bridger came in with the Ghost Crew in a huge upshot to turn the battle around, stranding Thrawn in the other galaxy, creating this whole situation. Whereas it's kind of implied that if Thrawn had not been stranded in the other galaxy during the events of the original trilogy, the Empire actually would have won. They start laying the seeds for Thrawn's whole relationship with the Night Sisters kind of falling apart. Like, this is a very long storyline that they're going to stretch out, but you kind of see seeds of this in this episode.
Our alliance has proven to be quite beneficial.
He thanks them for their continued help, but then throughout the episode, there are a couple moments where they question the Night Sisters' loyalty to Thrawn, and also the Night Sisters seem like they start to dislike Thrawn a lot. just laying the seeds for them eventually betraying him, because the whole idea is the Night Sisters do not care about the Empire coming back. They don't really care about Thrawn either. It's sort of like the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of situation, and they're only using him because they need him to get back to that main galaxy, to the Dathomir planet. The Night Sisters' whole goal in this is just to bring back the Witch Kingdom of the Dathomir. So they'll just continue to help Thrawn as long as it serves them until it doesn't, and then they'll probably betray him. Then they induct Morgan Elsbeth to become a traditional Night Sister, a full member of their order. She gets the face tattoos, the white skin. Like, people asked when they introduced the character early on, like, why does she look like regular Night Sisters from Clone Wars? This explains that. Like, she basically was born in a time when all the Night Sisters were dead, so there were no Night Sisters to induct her into the order and gain this power. Basically, it's them giving her a giant power upgrade, access to way more power. They call it a gift of shadow, so to speak. Like, she has more access to the Force now. They also give her the Sword of Talzin, which is a direct reference to Mother Talzin from the Clone Wars. She was the leader of the Night Sisters in the main galaxy until she was killed battling Count Dooku. Here's the thing though, the Night Sisters can actually speak to Night Sisters who have died. They can also speak across space and time. So basically the Night Sisters are pulling Mother Talzin's sword from across galaxies to give it to her. Like, that's how their power works. Too bad they can't actually pull each other across galaxies. But Morgan Elsbeth, for instance, in present day, even though it seems like she's dead, don't count her out yet, like she might not be permadead, because so many people came back from the dead in this episode, literally. Because of the Night Sister's abilities in the Force, she can actually speak across space-time to the actual Mother Talzin back during the events of the Clone Wars before she died, or even after death too.
You have returned, and you are safe again.
The practical reason why Dave Filoni gave her Mother Talzin's sword was obviously, big Easter egg, big member berries, but also to match Ahsoka, to make them about on equal footing. Notice that Thrawn also kind of seems bemused by this ceremony, but like I said, he understands what it means because during the ceremony, one of the parts of it involved Morgan Elsbeth swearing ultimate loyalty to the Night Sisters, meaning that Thrawn clocked that and understood it means that she wasn't loyal to him anymore. Then we get another really cool scene of Ezra constructing a brand new lightsaber for himself. I wasn't sure if he was actually going to do this, but I'm glad that they did this. He claims because of his new Force abilities, he doesn't need a lightsaber, but it's weird to see a Jedi without a lightsaber. There's a lot of references and exposition here where he learns who Huyang really is, because remember, he's been gone this whole time. He never met Huyang.
What are you talking about?
The blade emitter's too narrow.
Now look here, I've been teaching younglings how to construct lightsabers longer than you've been alive.
There's a bunch of jokes about him doing it the wrong way and how he's taught Padawans since the beginning of the Jedi Order, almost the beginning of the Jedi Order. He has schematics for every single lightsaber constructed before Order 66, obviously. They also use this scene as a really interesting way to talk about Kanan Jarrus. There was a live-action Kanan cameo scene from Freddie Prinze Jr. as a picture on Hera's ship on the Ghost.
Who taught you how to build a lightsaber anyway?
Kanan Jarrus.
And I taught him how to build a lightsaber.
What?
Of course.
Maybe at some point we'll get a live-action Freddie Prinze Jr. Kanan cameo scene in a bigger way, but there was so much Anakin Skywalker throughout the Ahsoka episodes, I feel like that's the reason why we didn't see a ton of Kanan stuff. Like, we're only allowed to have so many Force ghosts and so many dead Jedi come back on this series. We're going to focus on Anakin Skywalker this time. Next time, we'll hit up Kanan Jarrus' Force ghost. The whole idea with Huyang, though, is that he's from the Old Republic. Like, he's been around for thousands of years. He tells Ezra that he taught his master, Kanan Jarrus, who was Caleb Dume at the time. That's why he says, Caleb, I remember him. After the events of Order 66, Caleb Dume changes his name to Kanan Jarrus when he goes on the run. Basically telling Ezra that he understands him now, like, I remember your master, now it makes sense why you're this way. He also gives him a twin hilt that was the same as Kanan's hilt on his lightsaber, saying that when Kanan was a young child, or when Caleb was a young child constructing his lightsaber, he just kept the second one in case he would ever need it in the future. And to boot, Ezra's new lightsaber is blue, just like Kanan, so his lightsaber is essentially very, very similar to Kanan's lightsaber now, with a lot of the same pieces.
Hi, I'm Freddie Prinze Jr., and I'm the voice of Kanan on Star Wars Rebels. Kanan is pretty much the coolest guy in the universe.
Doesn't that just make you feel like we're going to eventually get some sort of live-action Kanan cameo scene? When they're referencing Kanan, they also play a little bit of Kanan's theme from Star Wars Rebels. It almost seems like he wants to practice with the new lightsaber with Sabine because Sabine is using his old lightsaber. But because of all this reminiscing on old times, thinking about Kanan, thinking about their time during Star Wars Rebels, the crew of the Ghost, everything that's happened in present day, all the backstory, the drama with Ahsoka, she basically runs off to cry. He explains the reason why Ahsoka originally stopped training Sabine is because she felt like she was only trained to be a Jedi because she wanted revenge for the death of her family in the Mandalorian Great Purge. They explained that Sabine's family was on the Mandalore planet. They were all killed, but somehow Sabine learned about it. Ahsoka prevented her from going to join the battle, knowing that she would also be killed too. And Sabine predictably just kind of resented her for that, like, you stopped me from trying to help my family. So Ahsoka didn't want her trained to be a Jedi out of rage, out of a want for revenge, because she felt like that was the path to Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader. Like, she didn't want to have another Darth Vader on her hands.
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
And you have to remember, for a lot of these characters, a lot of this backstory, Ezra was not around, so he's learning it for the first time. That's why he's so surprised. Also, Sabine recapped the events of the original trilogy to him, basically, like the most epic Star Wars recap ever. This is all the stuff you missed. But apparently she left out some of the important stuff, like, oh yeah, by the way, the Empire bombed the entire surface of the Mandalore planet. But good news is, we actually got the planet back. When Ahsoka and Sabine start talking about the consequences of what Sabine has done, like, yes, Thrawn now has a way back, I gave the star map to Baylan Skoll, I shouldn't have done that. Notice that Ahsoka is way more sanguine about all this now. She's acting more like an actual traditional Jedi Master, way wiser, way less quick to anger. And she basically explains to Sabine that the same thing happened to her when she was Sabine's age. Like, I made all these choices that nobody understood at the time. Nobody believed in me except for my master, Anakin Skywalker. He always stood by me no matter what. So now in present day, Ahsoka is trying to pay that same respect to Sabine. Like, I'll stand with you. Like, don't worry, you're going to make a bunch of really dumb choices, but I'll still be there to support you. The complicated choices that Ahsoka references is mostly her leaving the Jedi Order in the context of this conversation, but you can actually fill a couple books with all the complicated choices that Ahsoka made, like choosing to fight Darth Vader when she knew he was Anakin Skywalker, everything she did during the Clone Wars for the most part. If you have not watched any like the really big Clone Wars episodes or Rebels episodes, I would generally recommend doing that after this, especially the Mortis episodes. We'll get to that in a second too, because Baylan Skoll is clearly standing on a statue of the Mortis gods. Knowing all the backstory between the characters, like watching all those things that happen to Ahsoka go down, just makes scenes like this hit way harder. So if you're brand new to that animated stuff, I would recommend checking that out after the Ahsoka finale, starting with the Mortis episodes. They have another funny moment when Ezra tries to show off his new lightsaber to Ahsoka, like, hey, look at my new shiny, this is awesome. The TIE fighters attack, and they take them out with a Jedi team-up, three-way Jedi team-up, and another funny scene of Sabine making a dumb choice, like accidentally taking out the TIE fighters by also ramming them kamikaze style with Ahsoka's ship. For a minute, I thought this was going to be the way they explained that they don't get back to the original galaxy because the ship is disabled, so they can't ride it in the Purrgil's mouth the same way, but they basically fixed the ship by the end of the episode. The whole idea is that they wanted to have that ground assault where they actually fight their way up the Night Sisters tower into the Star Destroyer. On the other side of things, Thrawn doesn't look surprised that they lost the TIE fighters. Like I said, even though he's sad to have lost men, he understood that that was probably going to happen. The whole point was just distracting Ahsoka long enough to allow them to load their dead troopers so that they could get to the other galaxy. Notice that he also gives the dead TIE pilots citations. Those are like commendations for their service. He's rewarding them posthumously because he does treat his men very well compared to Darth Vader, for instance, who killed almost as many Imperials as the Rebels did. Thrawn makes a bunch of Darth Vader references in the episode and digs at Ahsoka for Anakin Skywalker eventually turning into Darth Vader. The whole blessing of the Night Sisters that Morgan Elsbeth says the Night Troopers are going to get are the enchantments through those red bindings around their armor that will raise them from the dead, turning them into Night Sister zombies, basically creating an unkillable army for the most part unless you chop their heads off. This is meant to be the TV show's version of what Book Thrawn used his Dark Jedi for, essentially creating a much better, stronger army. During those books, Thrawn believed the Emperor secretly used the Force to enhance the Imperial fleet during battles, making it more powerful, winning more battles, so he had his own Dark Jedi do the same thing, basically making everyone a better fighter, a better pilot. Kind of like buffing your entire party before a giant raid fight. When it seems like he gets kind of sad when he talks about the volunteer stormtroopers being made aware, he wants to make sure that they're aware that they're probably going to die, like the Jedi will probably kill you, and you will be turned into finger puppets raised from the dead. So basically, he's sending a bunch of his own forces who have survived this whole time in the other galaxy to their death. Thrawn starts making more Anakin Skywalker references, calling Ahsoka his apprentice, and the whole idea is that he's doing this evil Sherlock mind palace thing where he's deducing her entire strategy from knowing what Anakin Skywalker's strategy used to be. The same way that Sherlock can spend like a second or two with someone and deduce their entire life story. When they're breaking into the temple, Ezra and Sabine use the Force to lift the gate together. It reminds me exactly of him doing that with Darth Maul. There are a couple scenes like that in this episode, like the giant Force jump, scenes that they did directly during Star Wars Rebels. The only difference with this gate that they were opening together is it was way, way bigger than the gates that Darth Maul and Ezra were trying to lift together in the Force. You know it's on, though, when Ahsoka goes sleeveless, like sun's out, guns out, big fight time. They mow through the Night Troopers pretty easily, like they kind of slice through them like butter, but it's all just set up for this Night Sister zombie twist where they come back to life. And this is basically what it's going to look like during the Thrawn movie. When she asks Ezra if this has happened before, the reason why he doesn't remember it happening before is because it was during the Clone Wars before he was born. Like, oh, this happened before, but it was just a long, long time ago. The next part of the fight is meant to give you a good idea of what their abilities are like. Like, they aren't quite as good fighters as when they were alive, but they're still effective, and in this state, essentially blaster-proof. Like, shots don't slow them down, and Sabine pretty much cuts one in half, and it almost doesn't even stop it. Then Thrawn basically asks Morgan Elsbeth to sacrifice herself and stay behind. Notice how sad they seem. Like, Morgan Elsbeth is sad about this, Thrawn is kind of sad about this, but it's for, quote-unquote, the Empire. She's also sad that she won't get to return to the main galaxy and see the rise of the Dathomir. Notice that Thrawn also has a couple shadow troopers stay behind with her too. They're like a special sect of stormtroopers that are more powerful than normal ones, but these are also Night Sister zombies, as we find out later. That's why they can eat blast shots to the face, and it doesn't even slow them down. You also see a little bit underneath their mask too. It looks kind of like the desiccated corpses from the Night Sister zombies on the Clone Wars. They finally have an Ahsoka versus Morgan Elsbeth rematch from all the way back when she spanked her on The Mandalorian. There's also a lot of the same energy of Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Vader on the Death Star in A New Hope. Like, Ahsoka tells them, no, I'll take care of this, you go off and do your thing too. Obi-Wan Kenobi basically did the same thing to Luke Skywalker. Like, you have your mission, I have my mission. And their fight scene, even though it was pretty short, is way better than their last fight scene. Like, they've gotten way better with the lightsaber fight choreography just in general. You can also tell they spent way more time doing this scene too. Sabine and Ezra doing the combo Force jump is a big callback to him doing the exact same thing with Darth Maul's help during Rebels inside the Sith Temple. Darth Maul essentially forced through him after Ezra had already done a giant Force jump, and it was so effective that he almost overshot the mark. When they're doing this, they also play some of the classic John Williams Force theme. Most of the music in the episode, though, is versions of Star Wars Rebels theme music mixed into brand new songs. Sabine chooses to stay behind and help Ahsoka, which is meant to pay off Hu Yang's whole line from earlier in the season where he says they always did better when they stayed together. She winds up killing Morgan Elsbeth, but like I said, she might not be permadead, even though that giant Night Sister temple crumbled to the ground. So we'll see. Fingers crossed, but right now it does seem like she's down for the count. There are a lot of ways that they can explain that she survives that.
Bring the water of life.
Then the whole idea with Ezra is that he impersonates the Night Trooper that he just took out, disguising himself in its armor the same way he did during Rebels. They had a bit of a funny moment here too, where he kind of slaps him like, oh, thanks for the help there, buddy. There were a lot of moments like that during Rebels, so like a lot of his performance here, even though it's a brand new actor playing the character, is trying to capture a lot of the energy of Ezra from Rebels.
Your droid trusts me.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
This is also why Sabine had all those extra Stormtrooper helmets in the background too. Those are helmets that they wore on Star Wars Rebels. Then Ahsoka calls Hu Yang for an assist, and it's a callback to Episode 1 when she did the exact same thing, running to jump on the ship as that Night Sister temple was also exploding. Then you notice how the Night Sisters react to Thrawn destroying their temple, like, wait, what? What did you just tell them to do? You're gonna blow up our temple? This will probably grow to bite him in the ass in the future, because remember, they don't care about Thrawn, they don't care about the Empire coming back. They'll do anything they need to bring back the Witch Kingdom of the Dathomir, and for now that just means working with Thrawn, so they'll betray him the first opportunity they get. Then he actually reminds us that Ahsoka and Thrawn have never actually met each other face to face in person. They knew each other during Star Wars Rebels, but like they never actually had a big face-off that way. He explains how he was able to deduce her tactics by learning Anakin Skywalker's tactics. It also throws the memory of Anakin in her face, saying that he knew her master, Anakin, and also knew Darth Vader, and implies she too might fall to the dark side the same way that Anakin did. Like, we'll see how similar you might become to your master. He also calls her a Ronin, that's a samurai whose lord or master has died, and a lot of the series is inspired by samurai films. Then Thrawn jumps to hyperspace and makes it back to the main galaxy. Ahsoka and the others return to the Crab Village to regroup and figure out what to do next. Essentially, with the ship fixed, they can use the space whales to get back with a little help from Anakin Skywalker, it looks like. Force Ghost Sky Guy coming in for the assist to help Snips out. They do explain a little bit about what happens to the other characters. Like, thankfully, there aren't that big of cliffhangers. Like, there are cliffhangers, but they at least tell you a little bit about what's happening next with the characters. Shin Hati returns to the Raiders settlement, making it seem like she's going to take over their village and just use it to survive until she can figure out how to return, which might involve something with Baylan Skoll's plan, the world between worlds and the Mortis gods, or she could also use Ahsoka's ship to return with them, too. Then they finally reveal what Baylan Skoll has been talking about this whole time and paying off one of my long-running fan theories about the Mortis gods. The secret power that was calling to him was the Mortis gods. Those are the 3 statues that he's standing on. The daughter's statue is crumbled, but that also might be symbolic of her kind of still being alive in the Mirai Owl. Maybe we'll see Mirai during the Thrawn movie or during The Mandalorian Season 4 or Ahsoka Season 2. But you can see the statues of the father like he's standing on the fist of the father, and then there's a statue of the son right next to him. So the early theory right now is that Baylan Skoll wants to become a Mortis god and take their power, and that's how he's going to end all wars all over the universe. That's the level of power you would need to accomplish that. I literally just did a video about how Anakin Skywalker was essentially kind of doing the same thing, becoming more like the Mortis gods, replacing their role in the universe, bringing balance to the Force on a more cosmic scale. Even though Baylan is standing on the fist of the father, he could become like a new version of the son, though. That would be a really easy way for them to recast the character and explain why he looks different, because this is huge. Like, you would have to pay this storyline off and you would have to recast the character because recently in real life, Ray Stevenson passed away. May he rest in peace. The other thing, too, about this is that he could also be trying to enter the world between worlds. That would also give him access to a lot of power as well. Generally, though, it seems like he wants to become one of the Mortis gods. Then Thrawn exits hyperspace in the main galaxy above Dathomir as they begin preparations to call the rest of the Shadow Council and form their larger fleet, showing you the castes of armors, the Night Troopers they intend to raise. Like I said, kind of like a Game of Thrones, White Walker, Night King situation, where they can increase the size of their army exponentially with the other troops from the other sides that they kill. So if his army is this big now at the beginning, think about how big it will be by the beginning of the Thrawn movie. Basically like a never-ending supply of forces. Then Ezra takes Baylan Skoll's ship, which he would have stolen from the Star Destroyer at some point after they return to the main galaxy, to warn Hera in the New Republic about Thrawn, because now he has the proof, like he is the living proof, and he's wearing the Night Sister zombie armor, so like they can actually see the proof. Notice though there's actually Chopper who recognizes him first underneath the armor. Like, oh hey bro, long time no see, what's been going on? And if I didn't mention in my previous videos, the actual voice of Chopper is Dave Filoni. He was the voice of Chopper during Rebels, he just continued to do that during the live-action Ahsoka episodes. You have to picture Dave Filoni behind the scenes recording his dialogue, cursing in droid. That's basically what Chopper does. Like, every word that comes out of his mouth that isn't like a yes or no kind of answer is a curse word.
Court cannot admit evidence of this kind from a mere droid.
Then we get our really cool Anakin Skywalker Force Ghost cameo scene, but they pull it off in a really interesting way. They show Sabine looking at Ahsoka, and through the clouds, you can actually see the rings around the planet. And remember that the rings are meant to be the dead Purrgil bones, reminding you that they can actually find a way to call the Purrgils back to them and use them to get back to the main galaxy. But the whole idea here is that Sabine can't see Anakin Skywalker. She only sees Ahsoka looking out at the horizon, so she thinks that Ahsoka is just like taking it all in, when really Ahsoka is communing with Anakin's Force Ghost. That's the thing with Force Ghosts, is they can appear to whoever they want. So like if you're standing next to a bunch of people, the Force Ghost could just appear to you if they want, or they could appear to everyone else. To her credit, throughout the series, Sabine has gotten a little bit more powerful, and she can kind of detect Anakin's Force presence nearby. Like, I'm feeling something out there, something's going on, I can't quite tell what. Then Ahsoka smiles because she knows what's going on and she sees Anakin's Force Ghost. When they do the reveal of Anakin Skywalker, they also play some of Ahsoka's theme music from Star Wars The Clone Wars. So basically they're trying to tell you that Anakin Skywalker will probably do something to help them get back to the main galaxy. Like I said, probably call the Purrgils himself through the Force, like, hey, we need an assist, we need a ride back to that galaxy. I know there are a ton of questions about what happens next now. The next thing that's supposed to happen in the timeline is the Mandalorian Season 4 episodes, but based on the timing of when they're going to be filming all that stuff, it sounds like they'll either get those out at the end of next year or like early 2025. They've already started working on Ahsoka Season 2. I'm assuming that they'll just continue doing that now that the strikes have started to end, and they might decide to do that before the Thrawn movie, or it might take place right after the Thrawn movie. But basically everything in the Mandoverse that crosses over now, like Ahsoka, the Mandalorian series, the Skeleton Crew series, those will all cross over and build up to the Thrawn movie. That's kind of like their Star Wars version of Avengers Endgame. What they might do, though, is if things go well with that first movie, they might just continue to do the full Thrawn trilogy of movies. So like the first movie is Heir to the Empire, the second movie, Dark Force Rising, the third movie, The Last Command, maybe with a different title, but the basic idea you understand. And between the movies, they'll just do seasons of these shows like Ahsoka Season 2, continuing seasons of The Mandalorian, continuing seasons of Skeleton Crew, or any other spin-offs that they want to develop. I'm gonna need like a whole show about the Night Sisters. We just need like a solo show to explain what's going on with them. We'll probably get a trailer for Skeleton Crew pretty soon. I've already done a trailer that they dropped back at Star Wars Celebration, so I'll link that in the description below. Some of the big things that they didn't actually do that I was expecting is that they didn't show us Wes Chatham's face underneath that Stormtrooper armor. He's playing Enoch, and he's actually a pretty notable actor. It's weird that they didn't show his face. Maybe they'll do that during the Thrawn movie or during Ahsoka Season 2. And Sam Witwer was also credited in additional voices again, but I think he did some of the background voices when they were raising all the Night Sister zombies. You have to picture Dave Filoni giving him direction from the voiceover booth, like, I'm gonna need you to give me some louder, evil voices, evil chanting in the background.
Play with the attitude you have. I like the attitude of it all.
Okay, all right. In my mind's eye, Kenobi. Kenobi!
There were so many Easter eggs and references that if you spotted any in the episode that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. In the next couple of days, I'll do an Ahsoka Season 2 video where I talk more about Baylan Skoll, the Mortis gods, and all the other big cliffhangers like Luke Skywalker, the stuff that they're trying to set up for the next couple of series in the Thrawn movie. Click here for that Ahsoka Season 2 video. I'll update the link as soon as I post that, and click here to learn more about the Mortis gods and my other Ahsoka episodes. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.